My dear faithful, before we begin these beautiful solemn sacraments for the repose of the soul, dear Tom, just a few words of explanation, particularly for those who are not used to the Latin Mass. I encourage you, please follow along with the beautiful order of service that the family has composed. When it comes time to receiving Holy Communion, there is a directive there about receiving Holy Communion immediately on the tongue, and receiving Holy Communion will be taking place in the first pew, the first front pew, where one would be able to kneel if one is physically able to kneel. A kind of reminder about receiving Holy Communion, having a proper disposition to do so, and hence the importance of the practice of our faith, the keeping of the commandments and so forth, so that we may worthily, humbly, lovingly receive the treats of Holy Communion. The Requiem Mass, my back will be to you, so you will see my good side. And so during this Requiem Mass, we focus on not so much as the life of Thomas, of which we'll speak, but on his death, and a very holy death. Having received the consolation of the Church, I won't be preaching until just before, towards the end of the Mass, with what is called the Absolution. But by all means, do follow page to page with the beautiful order of service. We're here to be a source of comfort for dear Dad, and certainly the very loving family as well, as we saw them processing up the aisle. But Dad would be the first to say, don't concentrate on me, concentrate on praying for my husband's repose, which we do today. So the order of service, we start with what is at the entrance to the church. I'll be saying it loud to the English on the other side. So they may take something there and pray to Amen. She enters on the days over operators and Ci si piace Christus qui Pagate and Sinum Abre Angelica Vicante. Ci clientes anima Deus offerentes and spectatus. Raccomer Terra Etam. Others Vicata Lisbeth. Offerentes and spectatus. Kyrie Christus. Kyrie Artemis. That day, Lord, say to the common, say to the toxin. Our poor king, that we are very shocking. Father, is our dear Lord, Bobby is why? All praise to God, having our Father to allowing to resurrection His glory, to Son, to the heavens, to gracious times. Restore the Thomas Lodge, the Mary's increase of video. He taketh thee with a great thought, we taught it, spiritual sanctity. For Omnia Sancta Sancta. God, we who is Father, water. Praise free from this misery, sacred passion, and the secrets of the promise of our Jesus. Come home, ye angel, from sacred divine system, with my right sin and my message. And if they desire to be the sacred us and the Son is on the nation. In our country of our sanctification, we pray against the love and taking God for the sacred system. Say God, you are the but all the Lord creates and keeps the beauty. We take the key that the God still true song. God, save God, save God. That shall slay down the heart of the Father, Lord, is Lord, and the Lord's beginning was clear to once in a while. Committing to the Soviet system. It's accepted from God, it's a credit of God, each and every business. And memorial to the society of the of and God shall be used to prevent the and the mission section of the he is a lot of second says the God of German acceptors from the contingents German response of physical variation of something. Was it we continuous he was British corporate translation these two passages, these two passages. And to follow the passages. We say that to know it all and to listen from confirmation of the to be continued passages. We know the amount of different revelations, the meaning of faith and news. Precious man, also the message of all the and to all its local ways that have been placed in this one, starting to project. After talks, not only these bodies are being will be made in evidence. All our supers and opportunities will be made for projects. During the evidence. Body knows of the years of our ratios, the kindness of others. Who will be all projects. PAs and government, Jesus Today, God is here, clear, today, Jesus, respected, we pray in the name of the non in the name of great faith. I believe that God is God is Father. Why? From the
That's your screen. They can now see my screen. Okay. Well, I've got to go through all this again. I don't understand.
Oh, that's you.
From our Savior, while we move to Japanese, times, modern, from the same law, same Lord, take care of the faith, and some peace is nurtured and Jesus. And some peace is nurtured and Jesus. One. Praise the praise of the church. Radima only to the holy Lord, secular these sacrifices, the God of the parties, and of judgment, the record compilation. God, the days of peace of video. Jacob, the great God, the Father, Spirit, Son, for our sake, Lord, sake. God is God. Various daunting. The epistle is taken from St. Paul's letter to the Thessalonians. Brothers, will not have you ignorant concerning them that are asleep, that you be not sorrowful, even as those who have no hope. For you believe that Jesus died and rose again, even so those who have slept through Jesus will God bring him. For this we say unto you in the word of the Lord, that we who are alive, who remain until the coming of the Lord, shall not prevent those who have slept. For the Lord himself shall come down from heaven with commandment, and with the voice of an archangel, with the trumpet of God. And the dead who in Christ shall rise first. Then we who are alive, who are left, shall be taken up together with them in the clouds to meet Christ into the air. And shall be always with the Lord. Wherefore comfort one another with these words. And please stand for the Holy Gospel, which is not taken from the Gospel according to St. John. At that time, Jesus said to the multitudes of the Jews, all that the Father has given me shall come to me, and he that comes to me I will not cast out, because I come down from heaven, not to do my own will, but the will of him who sent me. Now this is the will of the Father who sent me, that of all he has given me I shall lose nothing, but should raise it up again on the last day. And this is the will of my Father that sent me, that everyone who sees the Son and believes in him may have life everlasting, and I will raise him up on the last day. The Gospel of the Lord. Please be seated. Flowers, the color of grieving, perhaps even the weather today corresponds with that. The shedding of tears. The idea of how we come and express our sorrow for one so loved. Yet we can have consolation with the fact that our grieving is always in proportion with our love. The more we grieve, how much the more do we love. Dad has shed many a tear over the passing of Tom, and even beforehand, in the debilitation of his illness, that finally took him early in this month. The month of May, the month of Mary, where we invoke the Mother of God as we did with the Rosary, praying for us sinners now and at the hour of our death. We have the consolations of the faith here when we consider Mass being offered for our loved ones deceased, our faith and union with our love. Tom received many times over the sacraments, the viaticum, food for the journey, the Holy Eucharist before dying. In the very capable hands of the priest of the Fraternity of St. Peter will he receive the last rites, the anointing. By this holy anointing, by the mercy of the Lord, may he forgive whatever sins committed by the use of the sense of sight, by the use of the sense of hearing, by the use of the sense of smell, by the use of the sense of taste and power of speech, by the use of the sense of touch, by the use of our power to walk. Those beautiful words, so to speak, that give consolation to the dying. We should want for ourselves what Thomas had, and what he continues to receive, to be remembered in life, and more importantly, to be remembered in death. I personally remember some event in Tom's life. Now I have to remember this event in death. But I can remember, in terms of the 40th wedding anniversary, having the privilege of blessing their anniversary back in 2006, assisting at Yvette and Corinne's wedding, Emily's christening, the many times that Tom and I would go bushwalking in the Blue Mountains. Hurry up, you old man. I think he said that to me, I can't remember. Tom, where did you go bushwalking? Oh, my knees are bothering me. Oh, shut up and get with it. The great love that he showed towards others, but particularly his family. Husband, father, grandfather. The idea of seeing before our very eyes a person who made history in his own world. And that's why we come and we take part in his history. As we remember him in death, and as again we remember him in life. You are here because in one way or another he crossed your path. And in terms of crossing your path, he did so with love. Starting first with the love of God, then flowing from there with the love of faith. When it comes to the teachings of our faith, truly we have it all. We have it all in life when we practice our faith. We have it all in death when we die, in terms of practicing our faith. When we're alive, we're called members of the faithful. When we die, we're called the faithful departed. He was faithful. Tom is faithful in life and faithful in death. So our grieving comes with a bit of a consolation. For what we see, we will one day be. We want this for us. Thomas can't just have it all for himself. And for those who practice our holy faith, we get it all. We receive it in abundance. That's why our grieving is not something that's out of control, but a beautiful grieving. The shedding of tears and union with placing ourselves at the foot of the cross. Here we see the younger generation before my eyes. The younger generation take stock in the wisdom of the older generation. Take stock in terms of how we're meant to live and how we're meant to die. How did Tom do it without a smartphone fixed to his eyes all the time? Here's somebody who is smarter than any smartphone. His social media would have been kissing his children and grandchildren. The technologies of the modern world have nothing compared to the reality of living in the image and likeness of God, practicing our faith, doing away with the complexities of life. The simple, humble practice of our faith. Praying, receiving the sacraments regularly, going to confession regularly. Tom would go to the sacrament of penance regularly. And I would say to him, Tom, you need that sacrament. People like you get people like me job security. And he would laugh. But here we see a beautiful reality with the eyes of faith telling us what death is all about. And the eyes of reality corresponding with that beautiful eyes of faith. To truly again say, in the practice of our faith, we have it all. Today, Thomas gives us that beautiful example of how to live and how to die. Eternal rest and unto him, O Lord, and let perpetual light shine upon him. May he rest in peace. Amen. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Ghost. Amen. Please stand. In continuing to follow along with the order of service, we start where it says the prayers, the absolution. So it's towards the end, the last few pages, but it's called the absolution. And let's go to our hearts. One in prayers, we need to consider. Amen. That is our translation because of easy picture of the control name to go. Please go. Whenever we school Christians, so attention prayer for the rest of the classic say God for the is the parental God about the solutions. Please don't continue to listen out of the social media. He leaves the red doors and save the Lord, save the world. Libre Domini Protector, Dei Ultima, quando celebri subito, giovanile si caresse confidere, Trinitatis Electio, Christus, Dei Macre, quando celebri subito, Dies era, dies comitatis episite, dies mani et amare, devenere si caresse seculum, Trinitone, Famine, Constitutionis, Libre Domini Protector, Bona celebri subito, devenere si caresse seculum, Kyrie eleison, Christe eleison, Amen. Bene, continui a scenderci. A poche, perché stai? Domine, via Vacciane. Amin, Organs. Days to be working necessary, submit much, sequences and dramas. Lecturarius. Anima, Palmitri, Thomas, come over the age of sequel and power system. When I'm trying to say, I'm on students. The stories of being so dubious and the sun is on the nations. That I'm part of the courageous civilization. The creators go out and they need it on, they are to finish the next glory of the for the Lord for years and Christian videos. Take the lead with the very God, the Tati, Spilla, Son, Amina, save Lord, save Lord. Rather than Amen. Rather than talking Anima days of Anima, the Daddy of the mystery, in peace, let us now take our dear brother to his final place of rest.
My mother would like to present her eulogy.
So first of all, thank you everybody for coming today. We really appreciate it, Mum and I, and all of our family to remember Dave. We all know what a great character he was, and I know that we all love him. The first person to speak today will be Uncle Ian. He's got a lot of stories about Dad and Noah Young growing up together. They were like twins. So I'll hand it over to Uncle Ian. I'd like to get you to speak.
And thanks, Michelle. Tom and I were together from when we were babies until we were probably 18 and 19. We reconnected again in later life in Sydney. But growing up as kids together, we had some wonderful adventures. Some probably horrific to some people, some funny. But Tom being the eldest of the family, I was his best man, he was my best man. And I recall when we were babies, or toddlers at Coffs Harbour there one night. We wanted to sleep out under this big hollow log. So Dad got a blanket and put it down and out we went. We were all set for the night. We're going to camp out for the night. I was about 2 and Tom was probably 4. Next thing we heard this, well, we bolted for the door at 100 miles an hour because Eric, of course, at the door doing the howling. We thought it was a bingo. Now, we did everything together, as I said. We milked cows, we rode bush bikes all over the place, we swam creeks and rivers, climbed trees to get birds' eggs, killed snakes, cut and hackled millet, pulled corn, rode motorbikes together. We even joined the CMF together and acted as lunch soldiers for a couple of years. Now, Tom was always like a big brother. He joined the Boy Scouts when he was about 11 or 12. Now, I could never get to sleep until Tom come home. So I'd wait for the whistle at the start of East Street, whistling all the way home down East Street till he got home, and I could go to sleep. Big brother was home. He went on a camp one weekend with the Boy Scouts, Friday till Sunday. Saturday afternoon, there was a knock on the door. Tom was home. They brought him home. He was homesick. That was the end of the Boy Scouts. Anyhow, when he was a teenager, he had to have his front teeth taken out, get false teeth. And he came out of anaesthetic singing one of the hit tunes at the time, Running Bear. Running Bear, drove in the water. And later on, he was swimming down at Evans Head and he lost his false teeth in the surf. Of course, Tom being philosophical, he said, oh, somebody shark and these are more than we's probably wearing them. Anyhow, we went down to Melbourne for a holiday one time together and we wanted to get these snakeskin pants. So we thought we were real good hoods, watches, you know. No one in town had snakeskin pants, so we heard about them at this place called the Godiva. So we went and bought these snakeskin pants, got down to Melbourne to Kyneton in Victoria, parading up and down the street with these snakeskin pants on at our auntie's place. Well, I went with the talk of the town. Because when we got back to the casino, we got only hoods in town with snakeskin pants. We were king, you know what, you know. Anyhow, one time, Tom used to climb the tree and get the birds' eggs, and with a relay coming down, I'd be the next one and somebody else would be got the bottom, hand it down. He's up this tree one day about 20 feet in the air. I was number 2 and Greg Cox was down the bottom. Next thing I hear a crack of a branch and Tom goes, flatten his back. I climbed down and said to Greg, he's dead. He said, no, he can't be, he just moved. So he was in bed with concussion for 2 or 3 days. Another time they were putting these big underground pipes from the milk factory down to the river to the other side of our house in East Street, then they went into an open drain. So there were these big pipes about this high, all lined up down East Street, ready to go in when they were ready to put them underground. So we used to climb up somewhere, we got up the top and ran along the top of them, you know. And this day, Tom's always leading the pack away, here we go. We didn't realise they'd moved one of the pipes. The road runner was out in the middle of mid-air going nowhere. The next were going, couldn't reach the next pipe. More concussion. You know, like he trying to kill himself all his life, you know. Now, when my boys were young, we used to tell them stories. The adventures of Tom and they wouldn't go to bed. They had to hear a bedtime story about the event. Of course, some were fictional, but you never get a good story getting in the way of the truth, do you, you know? But some were true. We hung the cow, we killed the snake, we swam the shark-infested river, all this type of thing. We did hang the cow. We had a house cow we could take down to the river to get better grass of an afternoon. Because a hot day, we decided to go for a swim in the river. So Tom has this big, brilliant idea to tie the rope that was around the cow's neck to a tree and we go for a swim. And an hour later we came back, the poor bloody cow's got blue eyes and dead. We fell down the river bank and got hung. Poor old Dad had to spend all night digging a hole to bury the cow before the council found out. Now the snake, in our day, walking in the scrub at the farm, snake, kill it. Black, brown, tiger, no matter what it is, kill it. This day over in Ranson scrub, there's this big black snake. Get it, Tom. Tom picks up a big tree branch and attacks the snake ran this line off the ground in the background. Get it, Tom, hit it. Giving the advice, but the story finished up, Tom and Ian killed the snake. Well, that snake finished up dead, of course, Now the shark-infested river. We used to walk across the paddocks and swim over to our cousin Shepherd's farm over the Green Ridge. There was a sandbank went out, and then there was a channel about 10 metres wide we had to get across before we got taken by a shark in our mind. They were in there. So we tie our clothes around our head, count to 3, 1, 2, 3, go. Swim like mad till we got to the other side without losing a leg. And of course, there probably wasn't a bloody shark within 3 miles of where we were, but you would never know. When Tom first started work at the railway, Mum said, you've got to pay board. Tom said, pay board? It's my house, I live here, why should I have to pay board? But someone must have convinced him because he used to come home every night, every fortnight, put his pay pack on top of the fridge and only take money for beer and cigarettes and let Mum keep the rest because the big family's struggling or whatever. So he was a big hearted fellow, Tom. Now, getting back to Tom as a person, Tom led a good life. Not as a wealthy person, but as a good person. I just told you one of his good deeds he did in his life, and he did many more. He was a loving husband and father and grandfather and great-grandfather. And they say on earth you've got to earn the key to the pearly gates. Well, I don't think Tom needed a key. I think he just turned up and said to old Peter, there you go, mate, where do I go? And I finish on that note. I'll just tell you a little joke about that. This Protestant died and went to heaven. And St. Peter said, where do I go? He said, I'll show you. So he's walking through and he said, down there by the river, that's all the Muslims down there, and that little field down there. He said, over there in that rose garden, that's the Jews. And he moved on a bit further. He said, over in that little forest over there, that's the Hindus. Up on that big mountain with all the snow-capped mountain, that's the Buddhists. And they come to a big wall about 30 foot high. And the Protestant said, what's behind the wall? He said, oh, that's the Catholics. We had to segregate them. They think they're the only ones here.
Thank you. Some very, very funny stories that I know you're about. Auntie Barbara?
Tom was, can you hear me? Yep. Tom was the much loved eldest son of Eric and June Lamont Snr and our big brother. Mum desperately wanted to be here today, but sadly she wasn't able to. Tom was honest and kind and a very gentle person, always humble and generous. A devout Catholic, he was an altar boy, and hence his love of the Latin Mass. As a little boy, Tom hated school. He went to St. Augustine's in Coffs Harbour and then to St. Mary's and Maris Brothers in Casino. Mum often had to give him a helping hand on his way to school with a small smack on the bottom to get him there. He loved to stand between Mum and Dad on the front seat of the car. And one day on the way to Coffs Harbour, Dad swerved round a corner and Tom went flying out. Dad was oblivious to this and drove on, with Tom running behind him saying, wait for me, Daddy, wait for me, and Mum screaming hysterically in the front seat to Dad to stop, which he did, and Tom got back in and stood in his favourite spot. He bore the scar in the middle of his forehead for the rest of his life. As children, we had a very happy family life with a large extended family of aunts, uncles and cousins. Sundays were spent at the farm at Clovis with our grandparents and all the aunts and uncles and cousins. With Sunday roast, long walks in the forest, it's not the forest, the scrub, I'm not in England at the moment, card games and long family chats. As a young boy, Tom was a great horseman, winning many ribbons at the local shows. He was a keen footballer, a member of the CMF, a good artist, and he had a lovely singing voice. He was also the captain of the East Street cricket team, which we played in the middle of the road with the garbage bin as our wicket. As a teenager, he once sang Running Bear in a talent quest, only to be beaten by Peter Allen. Tom was devastated. However, he never lost his love of music. As teenagers, we would move the furniture out of the lounge room on Saturday afternoon and drive to Brian Henderson and Bandstand. I wasn't allowed out without someone older than me. Tom was always there to take me dancing on Friday nights and to the movies on Saturday nights. We had a large group of neighbourhood friends and would pick one another up on the way and have a great time. He taught me to smoke under the guise of, if I give you one, you won't tell on me, will you? When he was old enough to get his licence, Tom discovered motorbikes. And he loved his bike. I was forbidden to get on the bike, but he would ride round the corner and wait for me, and I'd hop on and away we would go. In 1954, when the flood came, he picked me out over through the water so I didn't have to walk in it. Tom was the leader of the casino gang. I remember one Sunday, the Lismore boys came over and their leader wanted to fight Tom. Dad was going to let them fight, and I realised that Tom and Dad were greatly outnumbered, so I rang the police, who came and ran the Lismore boys out of town. The leader of the Lismore group, Darryl Stamp, then became Tom's best friend and would often be at our home at weekends. A tribute to Tom and the person he was. He made friends, not enemies. No skull and crossbone on Tom's leather jacket. He drew Bugs Bunny. Tom left school before the intermediate certificate and began his career in the railways. As a call boy, he then worked his way up to become an engine driver and then an electric train driver, and finished his career as an assistant to the Commissioner of Railways. When I went nursing, it was Tom who took me to Prince of Wales Hospital and carried my bag into my room in the nurses' home, causing a great furore as men weren't allowed inside. About the same time, Tom met Bev, the love of his life. He was so happy. And then Michelle and Thomas came along, completing his happiness. He was a devoted father, grandfather, and great-grandfather. Thank you, Bev, for loving him so much. And Shelley, thank you, darling, for all your devotion in the last couple of weeks. Now I can hear those motorbikes revving in the sky as he goes to join Thomas and our cousins, Graham and Kevin, to ride off into the wide blue yonder. We give Tom to God. May he rest in peace.
Does anybody else want to come and say something? Yeah. Uncle Barry.
Being involved is pretty hard acts to follow. It's covered all this, all the things I miss my memory the most. But I'll back up all the things you said about Tom growing up and what happened. And like Tony, I remember the times on the farm, milking cows, cutting millet and hackling millet, swimming the creek, and carrying on. But I tended to steer clear of those snakes. Let that be you, Rob. But you just spoke about Tom and Ian's time in the bikie gangs around casino. Well, Tom put me off riding bikes for life, off motorbikes, because I just get the brand of bikes that Ian and Tom had. They might have been, correct me if I'm wrong. Rock was a Triumph, BSA Golden Flash, and whatever it was. And Tom took me for a spin on his bike out the Northern Gap Road one day. I think I was about maybe 12 years of age. And at the time, I didn't mind getting on a horse, but this was all new to me, getting on the back of a motorbike, I had a t-shirt, a pair of shorts on, and he had the bloody thing doing about 85 miles an hour. I never ever got on a motorbike again. That was the finish, the end, you know. But Ralph, you mentioned about Tom diving in the surf and losing his false teeth. When Kay and I got married in Byron Bay in 1979, you wouldn't believe it, but history repeated itself. He decided to go for a swim at Lottie Goes Beach. He dived into the water, up he got, smiled at me, and I thought, guess what? You haven't got your teeth in there, Tom. Yeah, but Tom was, he was our big brother. He was the one that we aspired to be, or to be like, or to try and emulate. And in many ways, he was our hero, mine anyway. And I always remember when I went to Vietnam in 1970, Tom and Bev were there to see me off, as was Tony. And when I got off the ship and I got home in 1971, they were there again to look after me. And I also remember that when Tony and I were in Sydney looking for work and we were only young blokes, Tom and Bev were good enough to look after us in a little flat in the Canberra, as I remember. Was that right, Tony? In McDonald Street, Canberra or something? And we lived with them for quite some time. I always appreciated that bit. Always did. What else can I say? I remember he started work first in the store in the Meatworks Casino before he got onto the railway. I don't know whether any blokes remember or not, but he did. And, but I always remember some of the funny afternoons I spent with him in the railway hotel at Lidcombe with a lot of the other drivers and firemen, and listening to some of the stories they used to spin. And one of the funniest stories I can recall Tom telling in that part was a story about, I don't know whether he was involved, a fireman and a driver bringing a coal train home from Lithgow down into Sydney. Anyway, back in the days when they had the old steam engine, the carriage at the back to shovel the coal with the water tank and whatever, and there was a Catholic priest stranded on the station of Lithgow early in the morning. He missed the last train. And the driver said to him, he said, well, Father, he said, where have you got to go? He said, I've got to get to Granville. And they said, well, you can jump on the engine with us. And off we go. So off the priest jumps on the train, the fireman drive, big coal train, off they go to Sydney. And they get down the track a fair bit, and the sun's starting to peep up. And next thing, the driver grabs the shovel, flushes it with water, puts a couple of sausages on the shovel, a little bit of bacon, and an egg, and puts it on the fire. He cooks himself up a food for breakfast. He asks the pepper and salt, a bit of tomato sauce, and gets stuck into it. This is finished, and the fireman does the same thing. And the priest is looking at this food that cooked in the shovel on the fire, and he's salivating with the mouth. So the driver looked at him and he said, well, Father, he said, would you like some breakfast? He said, oh, he said, I love a breakfast. Like that, he said, it's tremendous. So they cooked him up a feed of sausages, bacon and egg on the shovel. And he sat there and used tomato sauce and salt and pepper and licked the plate and scrubbed it up with a bit of bread and butter. He said, oh, that was delicious. Then half an hour later, he said, I noticed there's no toilet on this train. He said to the driver, he said, if you don't mind me asking, he said, what do you do for toilet? And the driver said to the priest, he said, well, what we do, Father, we just shit on the shovel and throw it on the fire. But anyway, I like well to that and mate, I hope you enjoy your journey, and God love you, mate. I miss you.
my darling. Thank you, Shelley, and I won't take long, honey. I know you're. Thank you, my love. Thank you. Okay, today is a very sad day for everyone, especially Bev, Michelle, and family, and my dear mum, June, who cannot be here today. I know her heart is broken at the loss of her firstborn son, Tom. He was 12 or 13 when I was born, so my earliest memory of him was dancing around the lounge room floor with my sister Barb, doing the jive on a Saturday afternoon. His famous Donald Duck impressions that all the kids loved, I can still hear him doing it. But the most vivid memory is when he left our home in Casino, strip of Sydney, for work on the railway. And I remember how sad I felt to say goodbye. But he soon returned with the love of his life, Bev. And I loved it when they visited and when we got to travel to Sydney and holiday with them. Tom was famous for his home movies, and thanks to him, we have a wonderful memories of family past and present, special family events, holidays in Byron Bay and Evans Head, weddings, christenings, birthdays, and Tom was always called on to the MC to be the MC as he was so good at it. And I think we all look to him as the head of our family after our dad passed away. I don't think anyone ever had a bad word to say about Tom, my brother Tony remarked after his passing. Such was the incredible person he was, and he will remain in our hearts until we see him again. Godspeed, Tom.
Emily wants to say a few words. Try to keep it to a few. Started to write this and I was thinking, where do I even start? So this is going to be very chaotic and I'm sorry. I tried to write it like a letter to him, so sorry if it's weird that I'm saying you. There were so many different aspects to you that I don't know where to start. You like trains, you helped design the ones we have today. You love swimming. Sorry, I'm going to take my mask off. You love swimming. You loved your horses and your family, and you'd steal my hats and put photos and take photos to put on Facebook with them. And I don't think I ever got my Minecraft hat back. You'd make lime juice that you shared with me, and though you made it about with 80% water, somehow I got the idea that it was 100% lime juice. So every time I made it, it was like that. So you are the reason for my tolerance to sour stuff, so thank you. Every time I look at Wenty Pool, I think of you because I was there every Sunday. We had barbecues. I'd walk by Mum as she time kept the races, and I'd get sad you were racing so I couldn't see you. We protested the closing of that pool together. We were in the newspaper, and I miss it. You'd always tell us about the farm you grew up on, your horse, the cows, the creek you swam in. Casino. I liked Casino. It was peaceful. I see why you loved it so much, and I wish I could have seen it more with you. I'll just have to take your word that Fancy Countess? That Fancy Countess was the best horse ever. Speaking of horses, the amount of times I asked you to draw a horse for me when I was younger must have driven you insane. Because I don't know if that's the only thing you knew how to draw, but you drew it every single time I asked you to draw it, even if it was 5 minutes ago. While I'm writing this was before he died. While I'm writing this, you can't draw anymore. I draw horses kind of like you do now, and I love drawing with you, and I miss it. Thanks for looking after me and always being open to hugs and not getting angry when I scribbled on your wall when I was 5, and it's still there. I love you and will miss you, and I'll keep the rose I took in my room, and maybe I'll press it between some books so I can keep it. Thank you.
Okay, so if you don't mind, now I'm going to say this. So, to my darling dad, I know that when he first met my mum's sisters, he introduced himself as Thomas Leo Joseph Bartholomew Septimus Caesar Lamont. And that was his name to mum's sisters. They thought that was amazing, he had so many names. The man who I believe was invincible. Unfortunately, the last 3 years have shown me this was a fantasy. The diagnosis hit us all like a brick. Dad was born in 1943 in Crichton, Victoria, but his early life was spent in casino with his brothers and sisters. Dad used to tell us many a story of him growing up in casino as his adventures, from climbing trees to looking for birds' eggs, finding cherry soda under the porch of an abandoned house and drinking the lot. He could never touch that drink again. Cutting millet out at the farm, the big 54 flood, his dog Rover, and trying to avoid his father to work on the farms. Dad used to tell us that he got up early to milk the cows, but the best thing would be walking into a steaming pile of cow dung to keep his feet warm. Swimming in the Richmond River in the nude, even with the threat of sharks. He even took the house cow for a walk with Uncle Ian, tied her to a tree and went for a swim, and then forgot about the cow, and as Uncle Ian said, the cow got hung. But then Dad also said that the 54 floods came through when somehow the cow left where it had been buried. Dad had numerous adventures on his trains, to holding up the country train, apparently trying to figure out how to propose to Mum. He drove the steam train 3801, and on his tie-pin today when he was buried, he had that on his tie-pin. Corinne bought that for him. As kids, Thomas and I and my friends and Liz used to ride up in the front cabin while he drove those trains to this day. And even when he was a train driver, he used to tell us funny stories of walking up to the station. One day, he was walking up to the station, and every house he passed, he heard this like a buzzing sound. And he'd walk past a house and it'd come back and it'd come back, and he'd walk to the station and it'd still be with him. And he spent the whole day wondering what this noise was, and it was driving him crazy. He couldn't figure out what it was. And it wasn't until he got home that he discovered that his pager battery had gone flat, and that's what the buzzing was all day. He wasn't a prankster, but he knew how to make us laugh. One time he even had a can of KB beer behind a rock when we were on holidays down at in Vincentia, and had me film it on his camera, feigning a David Attenborough accent, saying he had found a can of beer in the wilderness. We used to drive to casino when we were kids, and I would always want to go to the toilet just after he'd passed a long line of trucks, and he wouldn't be very happy with me. Dad and Mum had a love that nobody else had. They had the most animated arguments, and I was sure they wouldn't survive their marriage, but it would have been 56 years in October this year. They lived for each other and always took care of each other. They would sit on the lounge at night time, hold hands, listening to the foxhole rock around the clock. I'll be sure going to miss Dad, their bond. Dad loved his kids, grandkids and great-grandkids. When he retired, he looked after Josh and Emily. He also picked the kids up from school. Mum and Dad were a staple in my kids' lives. And Shay, Holly, Lily, your kids as well. Those last 3 years were horrendous. It was terrible to see him suffer. Mum was there night and day when she could be. She took control of his needs, his appointments and his meds. There's now going to be a hole in her life that will never be filled. Dad, I love you and will miss you. I will see you again one day when we will see you again and we're reunited. I won't have to catch you up on what's happened here because I know you're watching over us already. So it's not goodbye, it's I'll see you later. I wanted to thank you, Bet and Justin, for the booklets that we all see today. Thank you very much for the hard work that you put in. And the Piper, thank you for the library, Bet. And Leah, for the technology. Leah's all the way over in Western Australia and she's been helping us out with the Zooms today. So thank you very much, Leah. I also wanted to thank everybody again for coming today and celebrating Dad's life. Thank you very much.
Chad.
I'd just like to say thank you to everybody for coming today to celebrate Tom's life. Thank you. It means a great deal to me. Thank you for those who travel a long way. And I won't forget. Thank you so much.
Again, thanks everyone for coming. Thank you. Thank you, Leah.
Michelle, you're more than welcome, sweetheart.
Thank you very much.
Hi, Nana.
Hi, Nana. Hi, Trudy. Hi, Patrice.
Hi, Nana.
Hello.
How darling. Oh, it's a sad time for us all, isn't it?
Yes. Very sad.
It certainly is. But he was a great man, so we've got a lot of good memories, haven't we?
Hi, Mum.
Oh, so sad, isn't it?
We had a beautiful,
Shay.
Thomas's girls?
send-off, Mum.
Girls.
Absolutely.
Lily and Shay
And he's got
Yeah.
lots of friends.
have grown up so
I
much.
really don't know them, do I?
So grown up.
He rest in peace and God. There's Barbara in the back.
Yeah.
Emily,
We look forward to seeing him.
What can I see?
Look at them.
I think I can see the corner of Corinne.
Yes.
Kids, hello.
They're all young.
This is Holly and Lily.
Oh, look, there's Corinne's little gorgeous girl.
Oh, isn't she lovely? Yeah.
3 now, Nana. The last time you saw her, she was only little.
Yes, she was. And he Who have I got here?
Hi, Nan.
Hi.
Penielle.
How are you?
Penielle at the front there with glasses on and Annette.
Yes. Right, yeah.
Harrison and Sophie.
Yeah. Oh, so many of them.
Look at
isn't there?
how you've all
There's
grown.
Yes. Look how
So
they've
grown up.
God, they are grown up. Yes.
Hey, look at this, nearly as big as me.
And the ones that haven't grown up have just got wider. Have you noticed?
Yeah, we didn't get any taller.
Oh, you all look
You
great.
can see how tall Harrison is. Wow, that's incredible. Gabby,
I'm sending you lots of love, Nan.
Thank you.
Christy at the back.
Oh, yes.
There's Josh.
Where's Josh?
Josh at the back with the tie on.
Oh, look at Josh.
Hey, Josh.
So much, haven't they?
So grown up. Looking very
Hi,
handsome.
Josh. He's looking very handsome.
Gorgeous.
Jason.
Take him home.
We've just had a vet join as well.
There's Jason behind Shelley.
All right.
This is Alicia.
Oh,
Love you, Nana. Love you, Nan.
That's Thomas's daughters on this side.
Oh, lovely.
Shay and Lily. And hang on a second, I'll just there. I'll just
Hi, Nana.
That's Christy Burke. She's Ian's daughter.
The one there.
Christy Burke, Ian's daughter.
This is Christy here waving.
Oh, that's good.
Christy's daughter.
I know. Christy,
Tamika.
Yeah.
Oh, I've never
Yeah.
been to
Love you, Nan.
Oh, there's so many of them, isn't there?
How many?
Can't keep up with them all.
Your beautiful family.
Shona.
Jean.
Hi, Shona.
They're all beautiful. All
There's
beautiful.
Shona there.
Boys are talking, they're obviously solving the problems of the world, they're not moving.
Oh, well. I wish somebody could solve all the problems.
Uncle, Be good, wouldn't it?
Oh, dear.
Uncle Ian's coming.
Wonderful.
See who else? He's
It's a
oh
sad,
Ian.
on the sad occasion, it's a shame.
going? How you doing?
Good, how are you, Ian?
Oh, good. Yeah, Mum. Yeah, pretty sad day, but we're getting through it. We've had all the service and all the
That's the
Yes.
name.
We had some lovely words about Tom. That
It's been a
Just
wonderful day, really, you know.
Yeah, I saw
was,
that. I was standing behind you.
we
Oh, you are not.
we heard some good stories. We heard some good stories about him over the years from everybody, different people like
Yes, I'll bet you.
Barbara and things
It's
we
been a
remember.
lovely it's been a lovely send off.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah,
really,
well,
really beautiful. Phil's
that's
done an
good.
amazing job.
Just what he'd want, just what he'd like. Yeah.
June's been watching all the services on the computer here. So she saw the
Oh,
church
great.
mass, and then we saw the burial, and then we saw the all the eulogies as well. So she's
Oh,
she hasn't
oh,
missed
that's
anything.
good. Oh, that's
She hasn't
good.
missed a
Yeah.
thing.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. Oh well, Mum. I'm going to say it was Shelley and Adam's birthdays yesterday, both on the same date. You know, and it's ironic that Luga and Tom were born on the same day in the same year, on different sides of the world, Latvia and Australia. Ronald Young was at the funeral, and Vera was born on the same day too, 7th of September, if you recall. And dates are funny, eh?
You've had a drink, Ian. Get off.
Yeah. Who's that?
Trudy.
Oh, right. It's only my second one in this establishment.
Oh, well.
It's only the second one is counting.
See you, Mum.
You're doing well.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye, Shelley.
Thank you very much.
Trace, bye, Trace. Bye, Nana. Bye.
See you, Shelley.
Don't be too sad, darling. Just
Thank you, Leah. I can't thank you enough.
Oh, my pleasure, Shelley. I'm so glad to have facilitated for you guys. Thank you for letting me help.
Thank you very much. I'm glad I got my laptop to work.
Yeah, well done. Congratulations on your end. It's not an easy feat.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
thank you.
Bye-bye. Thanks, Leah.
Bye. Does everyone want to put their videos on just so I can take a snip of everyone that was online for them?
We do
I'll
now.
hop in with you. They're just taking a photo of everybody who's online.
Oh, right.
Thank you. Thanks for organising
Thank
the
you.
Zoom. That's fantastic.
My pleasure. Thank you for joining.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye, June.
Bye-bye.
Bye, darling.
See you later.
Thinking of you all.